Good morning. We've got fog today. I'm going to turn the camera around because I realize when I upload these videos now to other platforms, every time I turn the camera around, it throws the timing of my voice, my lips and my voice off. So I'm going to try to be more cognizant of that. I didn't know. So for those that watch for the first 200 and some days, sorry. Anyway, not that that's what matters. So it's, anyway, so for those of you that are on video, I'm in a fog. And those of you not on video can just imagine, like I'm literally walking through clouds right now. So you can't even see the water. Like it's all just like, it's pretty cool. And it's cool. Taking in deep breaths of fresh air. I'm extra tired today too, but that's okay. Every day is a different day, which makes us appreciate things more. Yeah, that's the paradox at work. I can't know one without the other. That's how we define things, by the opposites. So, which means that's what I titled today, striving for foolishness. Like, what does that mean? So 1 Corinthians chapter 3, Paul is continuing his discussion from the first two chapters. Yeah, because it's a letter, right? And he's like, look, I had to come to you like the young believers that you are. I had to feed you milk. You know, he makes some childhood type analogies. You weren't ready for more. I just had to plant a seed. He uses the seed analogy. I had to plant the seed. And then Peter, or maybe it was Apollos, anyway, one of the other apostles came and watered the seed. But you're the one, and then God's the one that grows it with your cooperation and your willingness. Like you're open, the other people in the community, we help plant and water. But it's not about us. That is what Paul is trying to do for himself. He's trying to save himself from himself. Like, it's not me. And I don't want you to think it's me. And you shouldn't start thinking it's about somebody else, because it's really about God. We all need to keep our egos out of the way and in check and not let ourselves become confused. That's what the ego wants to do. I think I might start calling my ego Migo, like a little 3-year-old would do. Migo, Migo. If it's clamoring for attention. And so Paul then he switches gears and starts using building analogies. You lay a strong foundation with God, but then many of you will build the structure on top of a solid foundation. But when the fire comes, you'll be saved because the foundation will survive because it's God. But if you build something else on top of that foundation that's not solid or not fire retardant, because he uses fire, fires of life will come and burn it up. If you're not taking responsibility and doing your part to make sure the structure that you build on top of the foundation is solid and can withstand the fires of life. And so, like, what does he mean about that? With that? And when I read it and meditate on it, he's talking about the fragility of the ego. But the ego, the voice of the ego is very strong. Like defend, protect, be jealous, fight for your right. Like all of the things that the ego wants to do that cause trouble in our lives, that create a life maybe built out of a house of cards, but it can feel strong. It can be deceptive because you're like, I'm doing it my way and I'm being strong, when we're strong in our own selves. And we even decide, yes, I believe in God, but I'm going to add to that. I'm going to believe in the gospel of Peter and the gospel of so-and-so, in my own gospel, in my own version. That's human wisdom. And then he ends chapter 3 by saying, hey, you need to be foolish in the eyes of men, foolish by human wisdom standards. Because God, the wisest human, is just foolishness to God. So in order to be wise in the ways of God, you've got to be foolish in the ways of man. And it's just all comes back to the ego. Like, which is why when our ego is clamoring and all of the geese just took off at once and all the flapping, that was cool. Anyway, see, that's how the ego can be really distracting like that. You're like, ooh, oh yeah, I don't want to just be loving to my neighbor. I don't want to be loving to myself. You know, we start getting back into that earning mentality. We make people earn our love. We make ourselves earn our love and being treated right. And then we start becoming the judge and the jury and the executioner and crucifying ourselves and each other. That's a house of cards. That's a house. I couldn't help but think of when he talked about the house and the fire, of the fable of the three little pigs. I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. And, you know, maybe that story was inspired by these concepts. So who knows? We've got to be really, really cognizant of how we're building our lives and the relationships that we have with God. Remember, it's a holy temple for God, not for you. And God and the ego are not roommates. They don't make very good roommates. So that's sort of the journey of your faith maturing, is to, you know, let the ego take a back seat. Being able to create enough spiritual disciplines in your life that allow you to take a breath when the ego comes in roaring like a lion and wanting to devour. Yeah, makes you see some of these scriptures in a new way. It's ourselves. It's our own egos that are wanting to defend and devour to protect itself, and then cause us to act in ways that feel very right in the moment, feel wise by human standards, but their long-term consequences create division, feelings of self-righteousness, of being against us and them. And what brings the greatest joy and peace for a human is to be fully aligned with God, not caught up in the world. You can live in the world, but you're not caught in all of the traps of the world. You can live in peace with other humans, look at them and their behavior and go, wow, yeah, I know it's so confusing. It's so hard. You can have compassion and sympathy without getting too caught up in it. You know, you think of people like Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, that we have so many good role models and examples of this. And we're like, how did they do that? This is how they did it. And they actually did engage in activism because they were able to see the greater good. It wasn't about their own egos. So it doesn't necessarily equate to a life of even external peace, perhaps, but it's an internal internal peace, a solidness. Yeah, that's a great word. I'm glad that word came out of my mouth. It's solid. Not just the foundation is solid, but the structure is solid. So that it can house the holy temple and the purposes and the designs of the greater good of God. And you can participate in it in however God requires of you, from a position of, okay, let's get it done. Let's do it. From love and compassion. There's just a difference. And you've got to sort of step your toes in those waters personally before you start to understand. The ego, the me-go is a strong voice, just like a toddler. But the more you practice and put some good disciplines in place, like meditation, prayer, quiet time, being with yourself, being with God, that allow you to be able to push the pause button when that lion comes roaring and go, okay, and be able to discern, okay, is this my ego here? Is this God? Think about the long-term consequences. If I do A, B, or C, if I react. And then you can test whether it is wise according to God's kingdom or foolish, or if it's wise according to human standards or foolish. Because you can sit there and maybe take a deep breath, pause before reacting, and go, okay, let's play this out. If I do this, how's that going to work long term? Is it wise? Is it foolish? For me, and I know I've mentioned this before, but for those of you that are maybe new, the question I've been asking myself in that moment, because because that's often all we have is a moment, if we're able to catch ourselves, is what would love do here? And sometimes love does turn up the tables and get angry, like that righteous type of anger. Sometimes it says, this isn't worth it in the big scheme of things. And let people be right. Let people be wrong. Let people be in their own journey and in their own relationship with God, and you stay in yours. All right, I've got to hit the ground running here, so I am off to have some appointments and get some work done today. I hope you all have a great day and rise and shine wherever you are, and ask yourself, what would love do here? What's foolish? What's wise here? And according to whose standards? And choose foolishness by human standards so that you can be wise by in God's economy. All right, bye.